Alafia, I'm Dr. Gloria Lattimore Peace, host and producer of Omnivore Presents the H3O Art of Life show. The title of this show is Reframing Healthcare. And I have brought out the big guns. I have brought out my dear friends and my professionals who have aided and abetted me in keeping myself in good condition throughout these years. I have Dr. Lemont Freeman, and let me see, I'm going to say this name. It's the New Moon Ancient Healing Chiropractic Naturopathic Rehab Center.
All right.
Right on.
I love it.
And then I have Dr. Lester Wright, who says don't give him all of those titles, just call him Dr. Lester Wright. And then, of course, I have Dr. Hugh Jenkins, who is Alternative Health of Beverly Hills, and that's Chicago, not the one out in California. And this is wonderful because, you know, we'll talk to you, and then I want you to know these people are all local. So you don't have to travel somewhere to find them. If you should find something that they're saying interesting or even questionable, you can find them and you can challenge them. Call them up on the phone and see if you can't get answers. But I want to, before we start, doctors, I want to tell you that I was watching a TV show, and Dr. Deepak Chopra was on there, and he said some interesting things which I want to throw into the mix, so if we decide we want to entertain any of these things, we can. He said that the healthcare debate has shifted from health reform to insurance reform. They're no longer talking about healthcare. He said $700 billion has been spent on unnecessary tests, which of course do not extend life. Right. They just test. He said most of the end-of-life care extends suffering and increases the bill. It does nothing toward health care. And then he said medical technology is the most expensive technology, which is what explains why you have $700 billion has been spent on unnecessary tests. He also said there were 2.5 million surgeries performed that were not required. 2.5 million surgeries that were not required. And then finally he said there's 4 times as many healthcare lobbyists in Washington as there are congressmen. Now this is the reason why we're here to have this talk called Reframing Healthcare. Healthcare is so politicized. If you got 4 times as many lobbyists in Washington as there are congressmen, this means that decisions are being influenced by people with special interests, and it may not necessarily be the public's interest. And consequently, we have to begin to think, as you obviously began to think, about how to care for ourselves, how to form partnerships with caring healthcare providers so that we can take care of ourselves regardless of what decision is made about healthcare reform or insurance reform, whether we have this level of insurance, whether everybody has insurance, whether there's a public option. All of that is moot. All of that has nothing to do with the fact that you have to maintain your health if you are going to stay well and continue to live. So we want to talk about healthcare from the point of view of natural health modalities and other things that individuals and families can do to maintain good health, because we cannot rely on lobbyists and we cannot rely on a healthcare system that is completely and utterly politicized to take care of these matters for us. So now, ancient healing person,
yes,
Dr. Freeman,
yes,
tell me why it is you do what you do. First, maybe you should tell us what it is you do and then why. And I'll be asking the same question of Dr. Jenkins, and then I'll be asking Dr. Wright to talk about his own efforts to take care of himself, the kinds of diet and what have you that he subscribes to as a physician who understands that the matter of health care begins here. The buck stops with the individual and not with somebody out here making decisions for the individuals. Okay, Dr. Freeman, it's your turn.
Okay. Well, I'm a naturopath
Okay.
for 20 years and a chiropractor for 15.
Okay.
Acupuncturist and energetics and all those kinds of, and other so-called ancient modalities. How I got into the business, a lot of people get into the business for altruistic reasons. Someone wants to help everyone. They feel that there's the need to help people. And I felt that need to help people, but that really wasn't my interest. My interest was more of a selfish interest. I was hurt. I needed help for symptoms that I was in an automobile accident that I was 2 and 3 years trying to recover from. And I searched all over trying to get relief. And it forced me into going into other modalities. And I'm glad you were talking about healthcare reform, because that's not, they're not talking about healthcare reform, reforming the healthcare system. They're just talking about the way it's being paid for. There needs to be a serious turnabout about how healthcare is delivered to the black community, or just the community in general, the colored community in general. There needs to be a more simplistic, a more straightforward approach. I believe in more mother wit, in ancient things, meaning that things that we grew up with, in terms of
home remedies.
Absolutely, we're dealing with crisis before they reach another level. Unfortunately, sometimes the cure can be worse than the cause, and
or the treatment, because if they had a cure, we wouldn't keep having these recurring.
Absolutely, absolutely. So my focus is a more holistic focus. It's about maintaining the person as an individual, maintaining his mental, and because the mental part is another part of the component. Because as an ancient Dogon proverb goes, if you only heal a person on a physical level, you've only healed a man a third of the way. If you don't incur the psychological and emotional things that go along with these things, then their healing process doesn't really take place. I mean, healing, sometimes, my point was that sometimes when life hands you lemons, it's time to make lemonade. When when your body tells you that something is wrong, it's time to listen to it and try to address the things that it's saying to you, not try to medicate it, to over-medicate it, and to dumb it out. Just like when your smoke detector goes off in your house. When a smoke detector goes off, you don't go to you wake up, you try to find out where the fire is, and you grab your things and you get out. But you don't go to the smoke detector and take the battery out, so you don't hear the noise anymore and go back to sleep. So basically, I don't want to knock the so-called traditional medical profession for that. But I just want to say that you as an individual, we all have our own individual responsibilities, that when you hear something, it's best to try to address that. If your body is saying something to you, pain is our friend. It's not an enemy. Pain is our friend. It tells you when something's going good and when something's going bad. Okay, when something's getting better and when something's not. So there needs to be another total way of addressing
healthcare.
Absolutely, the symptoms. Symptoms can be beneficial to the understanding of the individual. Not that symptom is the disease itself. It's just a key to trying to put a piece together the puzzle of the total health care of that particular person, because one deficiency corresponds with another. If you just look at that one little small thing, then you miss the whole entire portion. If you just do this, just like if you if let's say you want to, your floors are squeaking in your house. Your foundation has shifted in your house, and your floors are squeaking, your windows are won't shut, and the doors won't shut. But if you just address these minor things, and sure, you'll get some success in terms of they won't be presenting themselves that way to you. But a year from now, 2 years from now, they're going to be addressing the same. You're going to be addressing these same problems because you didn't get to the source, and the source was that the foundation was shifted, and the foundation wasn't correct. What we have to have is a response. We have to maintain a proper foundation, but that's our responsibility as a person, not the doctor's responsibility. It's your responsibility as an individual. You have to do those things because it's our life. We're not watching a movie. This is not no movie in front of us. When it's not a matter if we're going to die, it's just when we're going to die. And that's okay.
And how much we're going to suffer or allow ourselves to suffer before that time comes.
Or how we're going to present ourselves during our suffering. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times suffering is needless at the end. You know, at the end we have to accept our path. And sometimes our path is shorter than we want it to be. But sometimes we need to accept our path with grace. And sometimes that grace isn't trying to grab hold of every little hope that might be out there. And realize that hope was within ourselves, and to start manufacturing, you know, positive energy, because these positive energies are the things that are going to sustain you and make you happy every day that you have left. Because we don't have tomorrow, we don't have yesterday, we only have this moment. And we must make ourselves happy every moment that we have.
Did I introduce you correctly? Should I have said Reverend Dr. Lemont Freeman?
Am I going to pass the hat around?
I certainly agree with everything you've said, and I don't think there's anybody sitting right here right now who does not. And these were very good, very excellent points to make. I know that Dr. Jenkins was sitting over here nodding his head up and down because he's in agreement as well. Because, you know, Dr. Jenkins, you and I talk about preventive medicine, of taking care of yourself in order not to become you know, challenged by the abuse to which we are prone to subject ourselves, just given the fact that we're conditioned by this society to be thrill seekers, thrill eaters, you know, people who maybe sometimes overindulge ourselves and our families in things that we think will make them happy. And you talk about being happy every day of your life. Well, some of us find wrong roads to happiness. So Dr. Jenkins, on his way to medical school, or while he was there in medical school, had the good fortune of being redirected. You might want to tell that story of you and Alvenia Fulton and how you came to be who all these things you are. You might tell us all these things you are.
Okay. Well, I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I do have to give credit to my mentor, Dr. Alvenia Fulton. I was graduating from Northern Illinois University, and I met her after applying for regular medical school, and she told me that, okay, well, there's enough medical students out there. We need more naturopathic students so I can pass the baton too. So I thought about that, but to even take it back farther, because when I was in high school, I had a heart problem, and the heart problem didn't get better until I started taking things like vitamin E. And it got better in a short period of time. So personally, I was leaning towards natural healing. And then with Dr. Fulton's guidance in college, that even directed me more so. So I said, okay, if she's been able to be in the world's authority of natural healing and a mentor, and also she was the fasting queen of the world. Okay, I saw people, when I came there, saw people come from all over the world to get healed from Dr. Fulton. So I said, okay, well, I found out about the school she told me about, National College of Naturopathic Medicine, went there. It was a 4-year medical school of natural healing. I was trained to do everything a medical doctor does except for using drugs and major surgery. And then also because the curriculum was so parallel, I was able to go into Cook County and do a short residency in OB-GYN, and so I was working hand in hand with the medical doctors, which is a great blend when you put the doctors together because the patients get the best results, okay? And we were delivering babies, doing everything that God allowed us to do and working together, you know, and seeing that now with Dr. Fulton is that natural healing is something that we want to heal from within, mind, body, and spirit. But when patients come to me and say, can I heal you? The old thing was, doctor, fix me. But the doctor didn't break you up. So you earn your disease, so you have to also, you earn your disease, so you also have to earn your health, okay? And so I say, I don't heal you, God, and you heal you. So God is the #1 doctor, you know, and he doesn't make any mistakes like us human doctors do. And things get much better from there. Okay, and so from there, naturopathic school, graduated there in '81, and then went back to school and got a chiropractic degree and graduated in '96, and also went to China and studied for acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine to see that there's a blend of things that we can all use. 80% of the world uses alternative medicine or natural herbal medicine. So let's use it as prevention, okay? Because with the 8 causes of disease, if we don't get down to the cause of the problem, let's say like if you have high blood pressure, and it could be caused by dehydration, could be caused by stress, could be caused by a number of different things, and we just give them medication for that. Let's get down to the cause of the problem so that it gets better from there, and we take it, and people get better. But mind, body, and spirit. You know, you have to put God in the mix. God is part of the Trinity.
Well, you know, you always put a lot of emphasis on the diet, which I know that you practice what you preach.
Right.
And dealing with nutrition as a means of maintaining good health as well as restoring good health when we fall off the wagon.
Well, food is your best medicine, and the wrong food is your worst enemy. So if you eat an average American diet, and 85% of cancer is caused by the American diet. So let's get rid of the bad energy, the bad food, put in good energy, good healthy food, holistic foods, and it can be vegetarian, vegan, raw food, and you can, if you are, depends on your blood type, put in some meats if you choose to. Everybody doesn't have to put in that, like an O blood type, they suggest to put in protein, meats, but it needs protein, it doesn't have to be animal meats to do that, because they will need that for their body, okay? So if we do that, we also have to cleanse. It's very important to clean the body out, okay? It's just like if you're rehabbing a building. Before you go in there and put the building together, you have to break it down to the studs, clean out all the things there, and then build it back up, and then other things is maintenance. We have to maintain our system.
All right,
Okay.
you want to stop there?
Yeah.
Dr. Wright, I know that at one point you were probably an omnivore, meaning that you pretty much ate whatever everybody else ate, and then you changed your mind. And tell me why, and tell me what results you think have come as a as a result of your having made some different decisions.
Yeah, I was an omnivore, meaning that I ate whatever was put in front of me, whatever it was. I used to eat heavy on the meat. Some days I would have steak and eggs for breakfast, and that's all I would have for breakfast. You know, I was that type of meat eater, big, thick hamburgers and all that kind of thing. I think that I am a reader outside of my profession. I'm an allopathic physician, and I'm one of the ones that actually got into medical school and went all the way through the curriculum. But my thinking has always been kind of, outside of the box. I'm in the box, but I'm also always looking outside the box and looking at the health problems that come from an incorrect diet. I come across information about meat eating, just some pretty horrific stories about what happens to the food from the farm to the grocery store, and what, you know, the bacterial contamination, the hormones, the chemicals, the herbicides that are in the plants that the animals eat. It accumulates in the tissues, the links between cancer and meat eating. In fact, there's a book out now, it's called The China Study, and it conclusively, unequivocally demonstrates links between meat consumption and cancer. Okay, so what I did was, and you had a role in that, I think when we first met about 10 years ago, right? And so what I did was I started transitioning away from meat. You know, I didn't go cold turkey, and let me just tell you, I was one of those people who said, you know, 15 years ago, you could not have told me that I'd be a vegetarian today. I'd have called you crazy. I was one of those people who said, oh no, I'm never giving up meat because it's just too good. It just tastes too good. I'm not going to give it up. Anyway, a long story short, I did wind up transitioning from, you know, from meat, all kinds of meat. You know, if it has a head on it, if it had a head on it, then I don't eat it. That includes fish, you know, none of that, no animal flesh at all. Now I noticed that I felt actually more energetic. I'm somewhat of a workaholic, and I don't really feel the effects of it. You know, never had to take any medication for anything. You know, I do the diet, you know, piece, lots of plant-based foods, fiber, drink water, filtered water. I also am a practitioner. It's interesting, the two doctors here are into acupuncture, which covers one aspect of energy manipulation. I'm a practitioner and teacher of Qigong. Okay, and so I work on, you know, the energy redistribution through other means. I also do meditation, and it's a ancient technique that I do. You know, meditation. I also teach that. You know, so I do all those things, and I have a gym at home. You know, and I work out on a regular basis. So all of those things make a big difference. You know, in terms of my overall, you know, how I feel, my overall energy level. The mental piece and the spiritual piece is very important. You know, there's an abundance of evidence that shows that happy people are also healthy people, and healthy people are happy people. So that's one of the things that another important piece of that whole mind, body, spirit connection. It's a whole system that needs to be addressed. Okay, so we can take care of the physical part with our diets, with the correct diet. Got to drink water. You know, I'm sure we all know people who brag about, well, I don't drink water, I don't like water. Well, that's not healthy. It's just not good for you. We deal with the psychological piece, and that is, we know, for example, about the role of stress and illness and the effects. What I've been able to do, because in the profession I'm in, it can be very stressful. But that kind of depends on how you look at it and how you respond to what is presented to you as a stressful situation. You know, it's how you respond to what people call stress. You know, but it does have an effect on your health. It can cause all kinds of health problems, just the psychological component alone. And in this society in which we live the way it is today, we all remember a simpler time when you didn't have these, you know, the crime and the other pollution, the social problems, which
and the economic
are
downturn.
The economic downturn, there's
as
a
they
lot
call
of
it.
Right. So that has a psychological impact which adversely affects one's health also. Okay, and then we have the spiritual religious component. You know, people, whatever, doesn't matter what your religion is. Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, some of the ancient, you know, traditional African religious systems, whatever it is, whatever you happen to be, if you have a strong connection with, you know, the Creator as defined within your religious paradigm, then that has a positive effect on your health too. So all of these things have to be taken into account when you talk about health and, you know, maintaining your health. and avoiding what we really want to do is avoid the need to see people like me in the first place. You know, I kind of joke, you know, on the diet part, you know, and, you know, people see me, you know, because I'm walking around eating fruits, and, you know, just during the course of the day. And somebody comments, you know, sometimes in the cafeteria, for example, I put nothing but veggies on the tray. And then people say, oh, you're eating healthy today. I said, well, yeah, if you say I'm eating healthy then, and you got this stuff on your tray, what do you say about how you're eating, right? And I kind of joke around about, you know, well, yeah, an apple a day keeps people like me away from myself, you know. In other words, you know, you know, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So there are a lot of things that we can do outside of our reliance on doctors. You know, I've had patients tell me that, well, Dr. Wright, you know, you're keeping me healthy with your medication. I have to correct them. I say, no, I'm not. You know, I'm not keeping you healthy. There are things that you have to do to keep yourself healthy. You know, you don't ever want to have to see me, because by the time you see me, then quite a bit of damage has been done, you know. I also explain to people that, you know, the human body is actually designed to heal itself. There's no pill that any doctor can prescribe. I've been at this for over 25 years. There's no pill that any doctor can prescribe that's going to heal anything. But if you get out the way and let the body's natural processes take over, then it will heal itself. It'll heal itself. And so getting out the way consists of not doing things that damage your body, things that we take for granted on a regular basis. You know, I can take you into any inner city hospital. I've been in a number of them over the years. And I can take you from one bed to the next. And I can point out probably 95 or better % of people are there because of things that they did to themselves, things that they put in their bodies, and it just accumulated over a number of years and made them sick. Now, I've had, for example, I've had diabetics, you know, when they get alarmed to the point where they rearrange their diets, you know, they take all the sugar out of the diets, they get more physically active, their requirements for medication goes down, and sometimes it's eliminated entirely. You know, those kinds of things. You know, same thing with cigarette smoking. You know, you got people huffing and puffing, they can barely walk up a flight of stairs. You know, when they cut the cigarettes out, energy levels go up. People make all, you know, just dietary changes, energy levels go up. So there's a whole range of things that we can do that don't cost anything at all. You know, so that's kind of, you know, that's kind of what my focus is. You know, when I talk to people, I talk to patients, and I'm educating them on, you know, things they can do that don't cost anything. You know, it doesn't cost you anything to go for a walk every day. You just get out of your house and just go walking. You know, you got parks all over the city. We've got, if it's cold, we got shopping malls that open up in the morning for walkers.
For people who walk.
Right, for people who walk. So there's a lot of things you can do.
So the operative word in this discussion is care.
And self-responsibility.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Care for yourself and partnership with others who care for you. I cannot imagine having anybody be a healthcare provider for me that we didn't have mutual respect and fondness for. I don't understand how you can turn something, a decision that has to do with your life over to somebody that you don't suspect likes you. You know, you're not really sure whether they don't know
like you.
You know, they don't know you because, you know, you in this situation where you got this network of people that your insurance says that you can only go to these people in this network. And if you go to somebody that you like, that person may be out of network, and then you have to pay. Well, I can't know whether or not I would like to like any of those people in the network, but I do know who I do know who I think likes me well enough to have my best interest at heart and well enough to want me to be well and not put the profit motive ahead of my recovery. Now that's my standard. My standard is I have to like you and you have to like me. And then I can suspect that we have a basis for a relationship that may lead to your, giving me some information and some recommendations or some treatment that will be a benefit to me.
Cool.
So care is the operative word. I have to care for you, you have to care for me, and I have to care. I have to care enough about what you do to believe that what you do has some benefit to me, and I have to trust you. If natural healing doesn't mean anything if people scoff at it, and there are many people who do not want to hear about herbs. They don't want to hear about anybody who does not have an MD. Fortunately, there are some MDs like Dr. Wright who think outside the box. But there are some people who do not trust that if you have not gone to medical school, that you will know anything to do if they have a health problem. And people like that who don't also have insurance, who cannot pay for health care, are in real big trouble.
Right.
So I'm saying reframing, not reforming health care in terms of caring for yourself and having caregivers who care for you, who help you care for yourself. And that's why I chose the three of you to come here and have this conversation, because whether or not you have health care insurance, whether or not you can have this or that procedure done, you need to be able to take care of yourself, and you're not going to go through chiropractic school, naturopathic school, naturopathic school, acupuncture, herbal medicine. You're not going to all of these places and learn all this stuff. And you have people who have done that for you. You all have gone to school for me. So I went to school and learned some other stuff. Mm-hmm. Now you learn some stuff. I can use the stuff that you know. I can trust you. You have a track record. How long you been doing this, Dr. Jenkins?
I've been in practice since 1982.
How many years is that? I can't count.
27
years.
Right.
Okay. How long you been in practice?
83.
83.
So 26
oh
years.
My goodness. And how long?
87.
87. So you got a long track record. By this time, somebody would be out in front of your office on Cermak Road you're on Archer, down there in the Chinatown area. Somebody would be out there with a picket sign by now if you weren't doing the right thing up there.
Absolutely.
Okay, and the same thing would be true for you. They would have run you out of Beverly Hills. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
we're doing God's work. We're doing God's work.
You're doing God's work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's wonderful that you do this. So your relationship with your patients, how are you getting patients? Because I know that very often the things that you do, chiropractors are covered. You can go to chiropractors, right, with your insurance?
Yeah, some insurances will pay.
Not all,
Right.
but some insurances. I know naturopaths, are they now covered?
Well, Blue Cross and Blue Shield, they are covered through Blue Cross and Blue Shield if it's not a city plan. So they have this semi-coverage.
People tell me these kinds of things. I'm sharing this with you because sometimes when I tell people the things that I know, the people that I know, they say, well, I don't know if my insurance covers that. It's kind of like getting permission from your mother when you're a child, to go to the movies.
And that's the problem with health care, because now you got to get, they're talking about you don't want your politician in front of it. It's the insurance company. They're telling who and what they can do, who you can see, who you can't see. It's crazy.
And they are not only that. I have another physician that I plan to bring on another show. They not only said who could come to her, but they also said what she could do. What procedures she could not. They would not cover certain procedures.
Right. Some of the basic procedures.
They would not cover certain prescriptions. Mm-hmm. So even though she knew, she's a holistic family practitioner, even though she knew the modalities that she wanted to incorporate in this patient's care, the insurance company says, oh no, they can't have that, you know. And of course people would say, well, I can't afford it, you know, I won't be able to do this or have this or that done because it's not affordable, because as we pointed out, medical technology is the most expensive technology out there. So if you can't, first of all, afford to get the EKG and wear the heart halter monitor and, you know, get all these tests that these doctors order that, as Deepak Chopra points out, does not extend life in any way. First of all, you have to be able to pay for all of these tests. Whatever happened to the doctors that could know what was wrong with you when you described your symptoms, when they looked at your eyes? You're an iridologist too. When they looked in your eyes, when you stuck out your tongue, when they took your pulse, when they listened to your chest, they could know some things about what your condition was. Why is it they have to do all these, take all these pictures and run all these x-rays and do all this blood work?
Sometimes defensive medicine is part of that component.
Is defensive medicine?
It's part of it. I mean, I would like to say that allopathic medicine isn't caring enough, that they're all profit motivated. But part of it has to do with defensive medicine. There's a certain level of care that you have to subscribe to, and if you don't subscribe to that level of care, then you're personally responsible. You could be sued.
Oh, you're talking about liability.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a major part of the healthcare problem, is that doctors are, they do pay through the nose for liability insurance, and consequently if they make decisions that would not be approved of by other doctors, then they are completely exposed to litigation. Absolutely. Talk to me about that a little, Doctor.
Yeah, defensive medicine. See, people, you really got to understand this system. First of all, we don't have a healthcare system. We have a sick care system.
Okay.
First of all. But it's, when it comes to so-called healthcare, it's more about the money than anything else. We have what you may call a medical industrial complex. And people are feeding at the trough in different capacities. You have the insurance companies who are in it to make money. They're in it to make money. They're not interested in your health. They're in it to make money. They didn't set up these businesses to help people pay for health care. They set them up to make money. People have to understand that. On the other side of the issue, you have lawyers. And these are money-making opportunities for both parties. These are money-making opportunities. A lot of doctors, and I think the rise of medical malpractice suits probably started somewhere maybe in the late 70s, early 80s, you know, and then all this defensive medicine is what really started. So yeah, there's a fair amount of paranoia among doctors about missing out, you know, missing things. And so tests are ordered. We live in a litigious society, you know, where people are now ready to sue at the drop of a hat. You know, I mean, you know, I've been privy to conversations, well, actually threats that were made by patients. Well, I work in a law firm. I just want you to know that. And if you don't give me X, Y, and Z, well, you know, I work in a law firm. You know, that kind of thing. You know, people come in with those kinds of attitudes, and doctors get paranoid, and then there's a whole nother level that the public doesn't see of peer review process among physicians, where if you have a bad outcome in the hospital, and no doctor ever wants to go through this, but you get, we have what are called root cause analyses. Okay, and this is, you know, a group of doctors will review, let's say a patient dies or gets an adverse outcome. Well, now you get hauled in by this panel of your peers into this meeting, and they go over everything you did with a fine-tooth comb, and they and you get pounded. You know, it starts in the residency program. You know, it's a good way to learn and teach, but there's a certain level of discomfort in just having to face that whole process. That's before the lawyers get a hold of it. This is before the lawyers get a hold of it. Then you got the, you know, so that happens within the institution. Now you have the specter of, okay, so am I going to be sued now? And then that's a whole nother level of concern.
Now you have to hire a lawyer.
Right, you have to hire a
Pay
lawyer.
through the nose.
Well, you know, that's where your
insurance
insurance,
takes care of
right, your insurance takes care of that up to a certain, you know, up to a certain limit.
But do they tend also to raise the insurance premiums when you have had?
So many
it's like when you have an
like,
accident in your
right,
car
right,
and
yeah,
you
yeah.
you okay?
You know, and see, malpractice insurance premiums go up every year automatically, regardless of what's happened. That's just another insurance company hustle, basically. But in the final analysis, it's all about, you know, somebody's making money in the process. Your elected officials, for example, who, you know, you mentioned 4 times as many lobbyists. This is just for healthcare alone, just for healthcare, as there are members of Congress.
4 times as many healthcare lobbyists
So, see, your elected officials
are under pressure.
They benefit. These guys get big campaign contributions. When President Obama started this whole healthcare reform effort, the insurance companies went into action. These guys have already, to date, have donated, the last figure I heard was about $250 million to stop this, you know, there's a big to-do about this public option. Well, these insurance companies and HMOs have been pouring money, they poured $250 million into the campaign coffers of the politicians, okay? And that's because that's a small investment they think, you know, that will prevent them from losing money on the back end. So they purchased politicians. They've been to the White House. They have been to the White House already. They've had meetings. And so now the system, if the public, you know, if there isn't enough of a public outcry, what you're going to have is a system, what they call health reform, but you know, everybody's going to be required to buy insurance.
You know, that was my concern. You know, that people who don't, I mean, we talk about an economic downturn where people, there are already lots of people who are not employed. And now you have more people who are not employed. They have virtually no income.
Right.
Health care is not affordable, but they will be compelled to have health care, and that will be subsidized, obviously, so that they can have health care. Right. But then, of course, there's a copay that you have to pay, and either it's going to come on one end or it's going to come on the other, that you're going to pay a higher copay if you have if you're not paying premiums, or you're paying a lower premium, it'll be high, but the money will stay. The flow of currency will continue to go in the direction of the insurance company. Just a little aside, my automobile insurance went up, and I called and wanted to know why, because I haven't had an accident in forever and no incidents of any kind. They said, well, you had a birthday.
And your excuse me.
You got older, you know, and now you in a category of people that we charge a different premium for.
Right.
So we understand that the insurance companies are, you know, they at the table, they gambling, and they gambling that they can keep from paying out.
Right.
That they can take in and keep more than they have to pay out. But I'm glad that these things are coming to light, because we see how important it is to be able to take care of yourself, because you have all these people who are influenced by money, and money is their priority. And if you've got a healthcare system based on capital, then of course the humanity of it has got to take some other seat, back seat, second seat, or whatever. And so it's important that we have people who long since decided that they were going to take some steps to do some things that we would be able to benefit from, and at this very moment. we have two of them sitting on either side of you, and then when you told me that you're now teaching medication and teaching this, do you have a
Meditation and
place
Qigong.
where you do these classes?
Over in South Shore.
Over in South
2108, right.
Okay.
2108 East 71st Street.
Okay.
We haven't started our next batch of classes up
Okay,
yet.
I'd like to know more about that when you're ready to start
Sure,
that.
sure.
Okay. So the whole idea is that people who are going to dedicate themselves to healing, because it ultimately it has to be about healing, not treatment. You know, not continuous and forever keeping somebody paying through the nose to maintain a level that you can't even call. It's just a tad beyond being sick.
Right.
You know, who wants to be just a hair's breadth away from illness? You know, you want to be well.
Absolutely, and that's and there's different levels of wellness, you know.
Okay.
And just being sick is just at the very tip of the life that you can possibly attain. You know what I'm saying? That's the point that I want to make across. The point that I want to say is that no matter where you are in life, no matter what your condition is, at this particular moment, at this particular time, there's help for you. And the help that you have to do is to look within yourself. You have to look within yourself and to seek other alternatives, because 10 to 1 that there's those voices that have told you, someone has brought you the news. This is not like the 60s or the 70s where this kind of information isn't out. People know about alternative help. They really have to start grasping for it a little bit more, because there's help out there for you. There's help out there for you.
You have to take the initiative.
It's your responsibility.
That's why more people are doing self-help things, and we are, as doctors, are educators to educate you. Okay, this is what you can do. You know, with the energy medicine, the relationship that you have with you and the doctor. If it's a negative relationship, like you were saying, a person walks in saying that I'm from a law office, which means they put up a negative energy. So you can't give, and even if you're trying to give them positive energy, they will not get well because of their negative energy. And the positive energy, like laughter is the best medicine, is one of the things that heal. But if there's some people that don't want to get better, and we can do everything that we can, mind, body, and spirit, and they're going to stay sick. Okay, so yeah. Very
And then,
important.
of course, if the people treating you have the same problem you have,
Right.
you know, then they're not taking care of themselves. What makes you think that they will take care of you? You know, if you're obese and you're going to an obese physician to try to get rid of your obesity, it's kind of counterproductive to be expecting this person to do something for you that person has not done for him or herself. So I know that my point in having this show has been to continue to urge people to take the initiative. Do not wait until some healthcare lobbyists work out some kind of deal with some politicians that they're bribing or trying to influence in other ways, with some other people who are in business to make money. Do not wait until those people decide what kind of care you can have and what kind of care you need. First of all, as you have pointed out, listen to your body. Your body is talking to you all the time. Don't ignore a headache. I had a friend who told me he had a really bad headache, and he just didn't know why he had this headache, because he didn't usually have headaches. And so he got over the headache, and there was no more mention of it. And then later on, he was somewhere and he was trying to say something, and he couldn't get the words out. He knew what he wanted to say, but they wouldn't come out. And he told one of his children that, and they said, well, you need to go to see about that. Well, he found out he had had not one but 2 strokes.
Yeah.
You see, but you know, the headache was just, oh, this is so unusual, I've got this headache. Now when you say stress, I mean, we are all under tremendous stress, and you say your response is what counts.
Right.
Because the stress of having either yourself being without enough income, or someone you love not having enough income, yourself being ill, or someone you love being ill, the stress that just comes from that is added to the stress that comes from what you hear on the news, the kinds of things that are going on in your community. You know, with every day you see that some public school student has been shot dead, you know, all of these kinds of things. So we have stress, and I think our community has more stress imposed upon it than anybody else. So now what do we do about this response? Meditation is part of centering yourself and balancing yourself. Aside from that, not eating things that put stress on your body to digest them, what other things? Stress relief.
One of the major things, don't eat anything white.
Don't eat it, and I understand that. And why is that? Why do you say don't eat anything white?
No white sugar, no white flour, because it's been processed. There's nothing to it. To make it white, everything that's going to be beneficial has been taken out of it, and now you have something that's really not necessarily metabolized by the body correctly, and this adverse not being able to be metabolized by the body creates a toxic effect, and these toxins start floating around, and that's the cause of what causes disease. Disease is usually because of something irritating, something taking something, some kind of place, some kind of transitional situation happening there, because there's not a signal being, the signals are being crossed. Usually it has to do with being toxic. Something is not connecting. So to take care of that, you have to cleanse the body. The cleansing is everything. You can't put dirt in. You can't put good in and get dirt out. Dirt in and get good out. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen.
Why is it that people think that they can go in a drugstore and get a product off the shelf, and you know it says colon cleanse on there? And so they think, well, I'll just take this product and this will cleanse. I know this is your baby, so just say I got 5 minutes.
Take it, Hugh.
Go ahead on, Hugh.
Well, a lot of people think that if I'm going to clean my body out, I'm going to clean out my colon. But by the time they eat that toxic food and it gets down to the colon, it's already done its damage. Okay? And the herbs are like an antidote, where the bad food is like a poison. And the antidote only takes effect after the poison has done its damage. So by the time you eat some sugar, it doesn't get down to the colon, it's absorbed into the mouth immediately, especially if it's a liquid. And it can get right into the blood system, the circulation, the lymphatic system. It can go straight to the brain, and you can have a brain fog. And that's why we have more kids with attention deficit, autism, et cetera, et cetera.
But you talk about cleansing the liver.
I'm talking about cleansing
the
whole body. The whole body.
You know, so colon cleansing is not the whole thing,
it's
because
not the whole
you say that the whole body is involved in this toxic condition.
Right. So for people that think that they will clean their body and get a colon cleanser, it's like cleaning your house and you only wash the bathroom. The house is still dirty. Okay. The house is still dirty. If you got a respiratory problem and you clean out your colon, the lungs, the problem's still there, because the lungs is one of your organs of elimination, so that's constipated too. Any organ can be constipated, not just the colon. So whether it's a blockage, congestion, stagnation, you got to make it move. Okay? And as the Chinese say, where the qi moves energy, the blood will follow. So break up that congestion, clean out that body, detoxify it. Okay? And it can't just do it with one colon cleanser, because it takes 4 months to 12 months to get down to the cell level where disease starts. So if you're having a symptom, and that symptom, for example, if arthritis starts at the cell level and it builds up to the pain threshold. Pain is our friend. It's a warning sign to let you know something's wrong someplace else. You take a painkiller to knock it down below the threshold, you still have all this disease. And that started from the blockage of energy all the way up into the tissues and the cells. By the time it's diagnosed, it's in the tissues. It's been there for a long, long time.
So don't take some kind of remedy, take a laxative, or take some other one shot, one dose of something, or one pill or one bottle of something, and think that you've done the job.
Right.
Or take that one thing, take that one thing and it doesn't work that first time. And now you're throwing everything out, the whole baby, you're throwing the baby out with the water. It is a process. You have to, you got to seek advice. You don't necessarily have to see someone like myself or someone in the business. Do your own research, please.
But you did the research. I'm not doing it over
Well,
again.
Well, then come to me.
Okay.
All right, that's
All
right. Come to me. I'll take it.
Use this as mentors, as teachers. It's just like an athlete. They can get on the track, but to become an Olympic athlete, they need a coach. Okay, but they're doing the work. They have to do the work, so you have to do the work for yourself. And it's got to be on all three levels:
but
the
you
mind,
need a
body,
coach.
and spirit.
You need a
and
coach.
you need a coach that cares.
Right.
Absolutely.
I demand to have coaches that care.
Right.
Okay, I have to introduce you again. We're coming toward the close. This is Dr. Lemont Freeman, New Moon Ancient Healing, Naturopathic Chiropractic Rehab Center. Hello, hello. This is Dr. Lester Wright, MD extraordinaire. He won't let me give him any other title. And
But good guy.
The good guy. Dr.
Good
Hugh
guy.
Jenkins. Is that Hugh A. Jenkins?
Hugh A. Jenkins.
What's
right.
the A for?
For Anthony.
Oh, Hugh Anthony Jenkins, Alternative Health of Beverly Hills, Chicago.
Right.
These have been my guests. We have been talking about reframing healthcare, and the buck stops with you. We passing the buck back to you. And hopefully the things that we have discussed here today will be of benefit. And people, you're saying do your research, but there are sometimes conflicting reports. There are practitioners who say this, and there are practitioners who say that. I remember when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had, his books, How to Eat to Live and so forth and so on. He said cooked food is best. Now that's what he said. But then later, there were people who began to question whether or not cooked food, which is another process, was as healthy as raw food. So perhaps if he were with us, he would revise his cookbook, his book today, and include that kind of thinking. So if you don't have any way to make the determination, then you go to a coach and you compare the pros and cons. And I thank you so much for coming out and taking time out of your busy schedules, because I know all of you have more stuff to do than I could ever imagine. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much.